Our next presenter is Paul Burton, who's the Managing Director of TNG. TNG is closing in on the funding and development of its Mount Peak Vanadium Titanium Iron project in the Northern Territory. This is one of the biggest new resource projects in Australia and one of the largest undeveloped deposits of its kind in the world. TNG has a market cap of $140 million. Please join me in welcoming Paul Burton.
Thanks very much, Kate, and good morning everyone, and good afternoon to everyone on the Gold Coast. We certainly miss not being up there with the rising stars this year. We know we have a lot of long-term supportive shareholders there, and I do miss not being up there at this time. I recognise as well that we may have some new investors and shareholders that are viewing in as well. So I've structured this presentation to give you an intro to the company, but also to give a very detailed update to our existing shareholders as well. So first of all, with an introduction to the company.
Today, our fast-developing world relies on modern materials. Titanium dioxide pigment is one of the most important materials we use in the construction of our cities, protecting us from the harmful effects of the sun. This modern-day pigment is widely used in paints, paper and plastics. Vanadium is a critical ingredient in the production of extremely strong steel alloys. Today, vanadium is being increasingly used in the rapidly growing electrical storage sector with the use of vanadium flow batteries. These batteries are powerful, durable, and have extremely large capacities. Steel continues to play an important part of buildings, infrastructure, ships, automobiles, machines and appliances that we enjoy today. Iron ore is a critical feedstock for today's steel industry. TNG, an Australian resources company, is focused on producing all these critical products from the development of its Mount Peak Vanadium, Titanium and Iron project. The company, in partnership with SMS Group, have developed German processing technology that will see us produce 100,000 tonnes per annum of titanium dioxide pigment, 6,000 of vanadium pentoxide, and 500,000 of iron oxide, all critical ingredients for our future. A mine in the Northern Territory will provide valuable feedstock for 2 downstream processing plants in the seaport of Darwin. TNG is well advanced in its project development and is aiming to build a world-scale strategic metals business.
So I think that gives you a good introduction to the company, and key takeaways there are that we have a very large, flat-lying, shallow resource. It's in the middle of the Northern Territory and it has a infrastructure corridor of road, rail and gas very close by to the resource. We've got a vertically integrated business plan as demonstrated on the slide now, and we have a resource that the value add that we provide to the resource gives us a very, very robust metrics of just under 3 billion Australian NPV and a 40% IRR. We've got a tier 1 group of development partners that we've arranged with the group over the years, and also with all of our products are in offtake as well, as I'll explain later on. On the slide that we're seeing here, we can see that we go from the titanomagnetite ore that contains the vanadium and the titanium. We extract the concentrate out of the beneficiation plant at the mine site, a very simple operation, goes through our process plant, which is going to be located near Darwin, and we produce the 3 products that are shown there. We upgrade the synthetic rutile that comes out further through the pigment plant to produce a very high-grade coating pigment. Why is that important? The important part of all of that is that every one of our products is going into a growing global market for all of the markets. Titanium dioxide, for example, 60% of it is used in coatings. We've identified that the best coating that we will use is an outdoor coating that'll be for weatherproofing, etc. That's the TNG 360 that we've trademarked. But most importantly, on the titanium feedstock area is that the existing ilmenite feedstocks are depleting globally. So by default, with what we've discovered with our Taiwan process at the Mount Peak deposit, we've now got a titanium magnetites can be used as a feedstock for the titanium industry. What we're seeing is a trend for the existing pigment producers that are going into acquiring their own source feed rocks. And for example, like Tronox has its own mines. And what we're going to see there is a lot more consolidation, possibly leading to some takeovers. And I think it's a very interesting time for TNG in this space. Vanadium pentoxide, traditionally, and most of the vanadium pentoxide goes into the steel industry. It's a strengthening agent. We're seeing a lot more vanadium going into the steel these days, principally on the back of the China demand for higher strength reinforced bars. What we are seeing, though, is also a growing area of superalloys and the vanadium redox batteries, which are still lurking there in the background, waiting for a suitable business model to come along to take the vanadium redox batteries into the alternative energy sector. A bit more on that from us a bit later on. Iron oxide, high purity hematite is what we produce. It's a good demand, good, strong, solid demand, but importantly, again, with the switch to more green energy production of iron and steel, there's a move towards hydrogen-based fluidized beds to take away the dependence on coal, and this means that they're using a lot more high-grade their in their steelmaking process, a bit more of a greener product. When that translates into pricing for these products in the market, these products pricings here are given by Roskill specifically for TNG in our most recent studies, goes out to 2030. We've got very strong, solid pricing for the titanium dioxide pigments. We can see very strong, going up to over $3,000, almost $4,000 a ton. Vanadium pentoxide, relatively flat, going out to 2030. However, this only includes the steel industry demand at the moment. It doesn't include any VRBs, vanadium redox batteries, or the superalloys. Also, the iron oxide, fairly flat. It's about 20% of our revenue stream. So the two most important ones for us are the vanadium and the titanium. It's about 80% of our total revenue stream. What I would draw your attention to as well, though, is on the dotted line at the below. Sorry, jumped ahead. That dotted line showed the margin of our cost of production compared to the sale price. Significant margins there. So let's have a look at the project. Our project is in the middle of the territory, as I mentioned. Mine site is very close to the road and rail highway. Processing plant is in Darwin, about 10 kilometres from the port of Darwin. Let's look at the mine site in more detail. What have we actually completed to date? We have the layout of the whole mine completed. The bore field has been identified. We discovered enough water there for the life of mine, 37 years. Power sources, we've identified the sources of the power and the potential builders. The integrated waste landform has been advanced. That's now in a position where it can be finalised. Geotechnical work is all progressed, all ready to be finalised. The whole road completed. Layout, that is, hasn't been actually put in yet. The EIS has been completed and the native title agreement is also completed. We have the mining licenses granted, so almost subject to finance, we're ready to go at the mine site, bar just a few tidying up of some of the layout designs. With the processing facility in Darwin, we have some land that's specifically allocated to TNG, shown there in the black. It's located right on the railway and it's 10 kilometres from the port. The SMS Group, our German development partner, are doing the final design and layout for the Taiwan plant. And ideally located here, what we're going to see is a schematic view of what the plant looks like from SMS at the moment. This gives you an idea of what we can expect to see from this type of process there, with all the different types of buildings. Everything's covered. It's a very, very clean processing facility. So the past 12 months, obviously there's been some interruption with the COVID challenges that everybody's had to face with. However, I'm very pleased that we managed to complete some significant milestones in that time. Look, most of the work has been focused on the SMS's group, the FEED, which is the front-end engineering and design. This is combined with support from Como engineers here in Perth and also Tycons, a specialist in pigment production in Germany. We've also managed to secure the agreements for life of mine for the hematite product with the Vimson Group, life of mine agreement with the Gunvor, so tying up our remaining 40% of the vanadium pentoxide. Mandated KfW IPEX, a very large German resource bank, for the total amount of debt for us. KPMG corporate finance team appointed to advise us on the correct, appropriate structure of any finance deals, and also to assist with equity and, importantly, any potential strategic partners and/or takeovers. NAIF application, very detailed application has been submitted. This is a big document, and we expect to get some funding through from NAIF. At the moment, it's going through their due diligence process. We executed a new facilitation agreement with the Northern Territory Government following the new government, and this basically puts all the relevant departments that we will be dealing with in touch with us for speeding through all the remaining permitting that we have. My management plan was submitted, comments have been received back. We've reviewed those, and we've now submitted our comments back on the My Management Plan. We're expecting that to be accepted. Environmental impact statement for the Darwin site has been submitted, and we then had comments back, and we're now going through the supplement process, and we expect that to be completed by the end of this year. The non-process infrastructure, MPI, all those work streams we managed to advance very, very strongly with our in-house team, and that's pretty much 90% complete. TNG and SMS Group, we announced a partnership to develop a low hydrogen production technology to minimise Taiwan's carbon footprint, but also brings into the potential for the company to have some new business direction with additional hydrogen production technology to license out to people. Focusing on the FEED, this has been the big study, the big work that's been going on for the last just over 12 months now. We're in FEL 3 on the graph there, so we're coming towards what I'd call the end of the road. But every time I say that, the road gets a bit longer, but we're coming towards the end of the road here. FEL 3, what we're getting with that is a lot of the process flow diagrams, PFDs, and also the P&IDs, the pipeline and instrument diagrams. All of this stuff is documents required for them to calculate the final turnkey price that they'll be providing to us in their EPC proposal. At the same time, we've been progressing the non-process infrastructure in-house. That covers the mine site, haul road, bore field, accommodation, logistics, everything that's not actually in the physical plants that have been designed and laid out by the SMS Group and their support. Looking at it somewhere differently, if we look at what the SMS Group has been focusing on specifically, where COVID came in, we now would say that we're about 75% complete on that timeline. I'd actually venture to suggest that we're actually a little bit further advanced than that. What has held us up on the COVID on the German side has been the confirmatory test work at the laboratories, and in Germany a lot of those were closed down, unfortunately. So that created a backlog and also some delays in actually just confirmatory test work. So things could only be progressed to a certain point without actually having that final test work to confirm things. So I think we're probably a little bit further ahead on there. Non-process infrastructure works, I'd say we're easily 90% completed. Really just everything's ready to go to final tendering. From a permitting side and approval side, the mine site is completely permitted. Environmental approvals, native title agreement, mining licenses, mine management plan, all in very good shape, all agreed, executed. Darwin processing facility, different story. We still have to get the EIS supplement submitted, which I expect to be the end of the year. We don't expect to have, with all the work that we've been doing, having received the comments, we don't expect that to be any issue. Land acquisition negotiations, that land that's been reserved for TNG is Crown land, and we're currently negotiating the terms of that with the Northern Territory Government. And there's a number of other regulatory entities as well that we're engaged with for both environmental and for mainly operational approvals. Offtake status, as I mentioned previously, all of our products are taken up with what I would call Tier 1 global groups. DKSH, very, very large group. Both Woojin and Gunvor will be sharing the vanadium pentoxide. And the Vimson Group, very large group out of India, conglomerates, iron ore miners for the last 50 years. On the funding side, we have KfW that I mentioned we've mandated, very large bank, exclusive to these specialised type of projects. They'll be looking at the whole debt structure. KPMG, as I mentioned, we appointed them as our advisors for both execute the most suitable debt and equity components of the project. But also they've got very good experience of working both with KfW and NAIF, which is obviously an added advantage. Looking ahead, we can see we've got completion of FEED, obviously, permitting for Taiwan at the processing site. We need the EPC proposal from SMS Group. TNG board will need to make its final investment decision. Finance will need to be completed. Appointing the final EPC contractor or contractors. Establish our full project development team in-house, and then commencement of development. Now, being the optimist that I am, barring any further delays, I do expect all of that to be completed within the next 12 months. Looking at the time, I'll have to leave it there. I was just going to go on to the other corporate developments. I'll briefly go through, we do have a green energy strategy, and please look at the ASX announcements about what is going on there. There will be some more news flow on this, particularly on the vanadium redox battery side, and also on the hydrogen developments with the SMS Group. And also, we're also increasing our resource base for the future, just increasing our total resource inventory from a strategic perspective. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Paul. A couple of questions have come through, one from a Gold Coast investor. When do you expect to secure funding and announce a final investment decision?
Great question. The current timetable would be a final investment decision mid next year. And look, we have KfW already appointed. They have done a certain amount of work for us. We know that that's going to take at least 6 months once they do get the final number from SMS, which we do expect relatively soon. So I would expect all of that to be wrapped up in the next 12 months.
Okay. And one from one of our webinar viewers. Would you consider spinning out the vanadium redox flow battery business, or planning to keep it in-house?
Look, it's most certainly a long-term view that would be its own business unit, and particularly in the company subsidiary that we put it into, TNG Energy, that could be spun out, and also with a value add for shareholders.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.